Good evening. Hi, I'm Felicity. I'm a satisfaction coach, yoga teacher, and reflexologist who is empowering people to live a happier, healthier, and more satisfied life they don't need to escape from. And welcome to the satisfaction session. If you're watching on live, say hello. I am coming to you from a few places in Facebook and Twitter and YouTube as well. So if you're not watching live, you can catch me every Wednesday in all those places at 7 o'clock. And I come on and talk to you about something. And this week we're going to do some yoga. I've said a few times over the last couple of weeks that I'm going to do a little bit of yoga. But before I launch into it, how are you doing? How is your life at the moment? How satisfied are you feeling? I am doing all right. I'm a little bit on tenterhooks in my house at the moment because I saw the first big spider of the season. It was a fair old size. And it took me about 3 days to dispose of it. I managed to catch it in a cup. I'm a bit scared of spiders, but I was quite impressed I managed to catch it rather than just deciding that it was right in the doorway of my bedroom. And just as I was going to bed, and it was half of me was tempted to just go and sleep on the sofa. But I didn't. I caught it. And then the next day I managed to get as far as stage 2 and put in a bit of paper underneath, a bit of cardboard underneath. And then I knew that I needed to be in a slightly dozy state of mind to actually get up the courage to chuck it out the window. So I did that this morning as soon as I woke up. Oh no, yesterday. No, it was this morning, as soon as I woke up. It's probably suffocated by now, to be honest. Poor spider. So tell me how you're doing. Tell me how your week's been. Just say hello if you're watching live. Really, it's nice to know that there's someone out there. And if you do say hello, you just have to let Restream know that, or you kind of have to give them permission to see you, so that I can see your name on what I'm looking at here. But even if you're not watching on live, if you're watching on replay, say hello too. It's good to know who's watching. So, like I said, today we're going to do a little bit of shoulder work. Because shoulders are kind of interesting. Shoulders move in all sorts of different ways, don't they? There's a lot of different directions and different ways that shoulders can move. And I've been having a bit of trouble with my left one recently, so I've been bringing my attention to it a little bit more than I perhaps will have done previously. So I thought I'd kind of invite you into a bit of my thought process, really, more than anything on this. So this isn't so much about movements for your shoulders. I might get onto a bit of movement. Well, we will do some movement, obviously, but this is not about this movement will improve this or anything like that. This is about getting you to be more aware of finding a neutral position for your shoulders and where is a good place for them to be. But also, where is the best place for them to rest? But also, how can we be more aware of the different movements that the shoulders make and whether they're kind of moving in ways that aren't good for both for our shoulders, but in particular for the neck. So shoulders and neck are really closely related. They're physically very closely related, right? So quite often when people have neck problems, it's not necessarily a problem in the neck. It's to do with where our shoulders are. And, we go through life, especially in particularly stress, if you think that kind of this is a stress response when we start raising our shoulders up. And when you're starting to go through life like this. And also, and people will have started to notice this. The mobile phone shoulders. So where we're starting to get more and more hunched because, I mean, we kind of hunch and slouch a bit anyway, but we're starting to go through life a little bit more hunched because we're spending all our time looking down at a mobile phone. So we kind of starting to find ourselves maybe in this kind of hunchy way, or almost the opposite, like I say, let's say a hunch or a scrunch, where our shoulders start to scrunch. You can imagine the impact that this has on the neck. If the shoulders are always up here, I can just feel it in my neck, let alone in the shoulders. So to become familiar with our shoulders, the best place to do this is lying down. I'm going to lie down. And feel free to come with me on some of this as well. I'll keep an eye on the chat in case you have anything to say. This is almost going to be a bit of a physical meditation, I suppose. So I'm going to lie on my back. I'm going to bring my feet to the floor with the knees bent. This just helps bring more of my spine in contact with the floor. And I'm letting the arms rest on the floor about 45 degrees, roughly. Is that 45 degrees? No, that's not 45 degrees. Yeah, it's 45 degrees. My maths escaped me for a moment. So around 45 degrees with the palms facing upwards. And just take a moment to rest here. And take a deep breath in through the nose and then sigh out through the mouth. And as we take that deep breath out, can you feel yourself sinking a bit deeper into the ground? You can close your eyes if that's appropriate for you right now. Closing the eyes sometimes just helps us really bring our attention into the body. And with shoulders, it's quite difficult to get proprioception. So a sense of where they are in space. We sometimes lose track of them. So we're going to really try and bring our attention into where the shoulders are. And it's useful to do this lying down because we can feel the pressure almost, or we can feel the contact of the whole of the spine, but in particular the shoulder blades with the floor. So just take a moment to really feel that contact of the shoulder blades with the floor. And we're going to allow them to move around when we do some movement. But like I say, the movement is not so much to improve our movement in this scenario, but it's just about us becoming aware of how the shoulders move differently when we move the arms in different ways. Before I clobber that wall. So now I want you to bring your arms right alongside the body with the palms facing down. And we're going to start off just trying to bring some activity into the arms themselves. So really lengthen through the arms, really expanding the hands. So feeling active all the way through the palms of the hand, through the fingers. Feel almost like you're squeezing the muscles in towards the arm bones. And then just let that relax. So we're trying to activate in the arms, but trying not to activate too much in the shoulders. So this is trying to bring an arm activation. Still trying to keep those shoulder blades in contact with the floor. So just do that a couple of times. And we're going to try lifting the arms. So we're going to start off, we're going to lift the arms, we're going to bring them up to vertical. And the first time you do this, I want your arms to be as limp and as heavy as possible. So try lifting the arms and feel how that feels in the shoulders without doing anything in the arms, basically. So we're just trying to get, so the shoulders are having to do all the work. So just do that a couple of times. Especially that initial lift. Notice how that feels in the shoulders. And then next time the arms are alongside the body, this time we're going to activate the arms. And now we're going to do the same thing again. So the arms now are really taking responsibility for the movement. So hopefully you might be able to feel that the shoulders aren't necessarily having to do quite so much work because the arms are doing a bit of work. And this is kind of how a lot of the yoga I teach plugs into this idea that if we can get the arms to do some work instead of being lazy, that the shoulders aren't having to do so much. And it works the same with the lower body. If we get the legs to do more, then the lower back is not having to do so much work. So the next time you bring the arms up to vertical, I'm going to pause there for a moment. Keep those hands and arms activated. They don't have to be completely straight. They just need to be active. And I want you to really still, again, feel the contact of the shoulder blades with the floor. So we're not reaching up. We're not reaching the shoulder blades off the floor at this point. We're keeping the shoulder blades on the floor. You might even feel a sense of gravity of the weight of the arms into those shoulder blades. And from here, we're going to start taking the arms above the head a bit further, just an inch or two, taking them towards the floor above you. But I want you to get a sense of when the shoulder blade, or the shoulder top, as you take the arms above your head, is there a point at which the shoulder starts coming up towards your ear? So this is all an inquiry, and this is what yoga is. Yoga is an inquiry, right? So we're just starting to take the arms further and further, and is there a point at which when you take your arms overhead, mine's not very far, it's only about there. If I get to about there, I can feel that if I want to go any further, by keeping my arms going in a kind of straight motion, do it in this direction. Can you still see me? Yes. If I want to keep going in that same line, my shoulder blade, or my shoulders, the shoulder blades are starting to wing out. And these tops of my shoulders are starting to come up towards my ears. So I'm going to start to play about with, well, I want to see if I can get my arms to the floor. Maybe if I take my arms a bit wider as I take them overhead, I can bring them to the floor without bringing those shoulder blades or the shoulder tops up towards my ears. So it's fine for us to do that, but can we also find movement where we're allowing the shoulders to be more relaxed? When the arms are taking more responsibility. And eventually we might find the ground. And, finding the ground could be really, really quite wide. If I'm going to take my arms straight up, I'm not wearing necessarily the right top, but you can see that it's scrunching up. Whereas if I take my arms wide, I've got all this nice space in my shoulders. That's really useful when we're doing all sorts of yoga poses. So, now I'm going to come up to seated and demonstrate a few of those things as well. This morning. So if you're following along, you can be seated. You can do this bit on a chair. Sit on the floor, cross legs. You can kneel if you want. Kneeling is sometimes quite useful because your arms aren't quite so long, or arms aren't quite touching the floor. So I'm going to do the same sort of thing, but we're going to just have a play about with all these different planes that the shoulders can move in. So we're going to bring the arms to straight out in front of you. So this is exactly the same place as when we were lying on the floor with the arms vertical. But again, can we find the place where they're in a neutral position? So we're going to have a play about with reaching forwards, feeling that sense that the arms are almost coming out the shoulders. And then we're keeping the arms active. Remember, your arms are going to know that you've done this work. Can you get a sense that you're drawing the arms back to bring the shoulders back into a neutral position? So watch as you're doing this that you're not bringing the shoulders up either. We want to keep this space. So reach forwards. Just reaching forward with the arms as well. Don't take the body with it. That's cheating. Reaching forwards. And then just drawing the arms back with purpose. Do that a couple of times back to neutral. Now we're going to try and keep doing this, but can we go past neutral? So maybe bringing the shoulder blades right back, maybe squeezing them together towards each other a little bit. Again, trying not to move the rest of the body. So this is where having a good seated position where you're sat nice and straight is important. So again, my arms aren't necessarily completely straight, but they are engaged. And can we find a neutral place here? You find that, I quite often call it yes, it's not Cinderella, it's the three bears, it's the Goldilocks, that's the one. Not too far forward, not too far back, just that neutral place. And then just let the arms rest down. Give your arms a rest for a moment. Let them rest wherever they can rest. And we'll see if we can play about with some moving up and down. So again, it is sometimes useful to bring the shoulders up towards the ears. Sometimes we're reaching for something high up. We need to move that shoulder. And think about, when we're doing this, thinking about the shoulder blades moving in this kind of way. So I'm going to let your arms rest a little bit as well. But if the shoulder blades are moving in this way, can we allow the arms to move? You might feel a bit like a chicken. Can we allow the arms to stay in that plane as well? So as we lift the shoulders up, think about it being a rotation of the shoulder blades around, and allow the arms to come with them. And then can we allow them, we're not going to let them just drop. We're going to mindfully and intentionally draw them again back to neutral. So try that again a couple of times. And I want you to try this thing again in a second of why the arms are really important. We'll demonstrate that again. So again, we're just getting a sense, can you get that sense of where the shoulder blades are in space and in proportion to the rest of your body? So I sometimes think I'm quite lucky, I'm quite good at proprioception. So let the shoulders just find, again, a neutral place to rest. So when I talk about proprioception is knowing where the body is in space. And then we also have interoception, knowing where the body is in proportion to itself. And this seems to be particularly difficult when it comes to shoulders. Now, like I say, whether I'm quite lucky that I'm quite good at it, If I close my eyes and I think, right, I want to take my arms out at 90 degrees to my body, I'll do that. Let me open my eyes again, see how good that is. That's pretty good. I'm very happy with that. Some people, and try it out yourself. For some people, this will feel like 90 degrees. For some people, this will feel like 90 degrees. Just don't have a sense of where their body is in space. And this can be linked to things like if you're hyperextensive, people who are hyperextensive are less good at proprioception. I sometimes think I'm hypoextensive, i.e. I'm not very stretchy at all. I don't know if there's such a thing as hypoextensive, but maybe they're related in that way. I'm not very stretchy, but I've got good proprioception. So have a play with that as well. Look at yourself in a mirror. Get yourself in front of a mirror or a camera. Close your eyes, stick your arms out. And the reason why this is really important in terms of yoga is I'm going to demonstrate the shoulders that we do in Warrior 2. Very classical yoga pose, where our legs go nice and wide. And you'll see pictures of Warrior 2, very classically trained yogis, and they'll have their body completely facing the front and the legs facing, this leg facing out to the side. And then this is kind of what they would consider the full posture, looking over this hand. Now, as always, even though I'm talking about shoulders, we have to start at the feet. And I have demonstrated Warrior 2 before. Problem with this is that if I try and keep my hips facing forwards, putting it in this direction, I'm going to bend this front knee. So that's my hips are facing up in that direction. If I try and change my hips to face forward, can you see what happens to my knee? So my hips are now facing forward, but my knee is nowhere near over on top of my ankle. It's over to the side. This is going to cause me knee problems, and we don't want knee problems. So this is just because of it may partly be stretchiness, but it's also going to be down to your anatomy. Now, the other thing I will quite often, when I'm teaching Warrior 2, I'll say, allow the hips to go whatever direction to allow the knee to go straight over your foot. Okay, and we also want to be all nice and long in the lower back. Now, the other thing I'll then say is Warrior Anchor Twist. So if your hips are facing in that direction, your shoulders should be facing in that direction as well. So if my shoulder's facing this way, I'm twisting. And my hips facing this way, I'm obviously twisting. So I want my shoulders to face the same direction as my hips. So I'm now facing on a diagonal. Which means now, if my shoulders are facing this way, but I want to get that classical image, and it's all just an image, and this is why I don't teach yoga as in copy what I'm doing, or copy the shapes I'm making. If I want to get that classical kind of one arm in line with the front foot, the other arm in line with the back foot. If I'm trying to keep my shoulders in line with my hips, but then my arms doing this, I end up with this arm doing this. And that's not very comfortable when it should really be doing that. So knowing where my arms are going in proportion to my shoulders is actually quite important when I'm all in kind of weird angles. So this is where I'll tell people to come into prayer. And then just extend at the elbow. And then we're at a nice kind of place where for the arms, this is nice for the shoulders. Even though this arm is almost coming straight towards you guys at home. Don't matter. It's comfortable for my shoulders, which are responding to my hips, which are responding to my knee. And this is a much better place to be in Warrior. So I kind of went off in a bit of a tangent, really. This is why what I mean by shoulders do all sorts of funny things. It's difficult for us to really perceive where they are in space. So that little run through of those few little movements that I did, and you can do any movements with your shoulders, but just start to get a real feel, kind of really bring your mind into it, use it as a meditation to feel where they are in space. And like I say, lying down is really useful because you've got the floor to guide you. Yeah, you can feel if you're doing any kind of rotational stuff in this plane, you can feel this is the spine, this is the shoulder blade. You can feel that shoulder blade rotating. If you're bringing the shoulder blades back towards the floor, you can feel it because you can feel that grounding into the floor. If you're bringing them up off the floor, if we're kind of here and we want to reach up, you can directly feel that the contact of the shoulder blade with the floor is changing. So there's a few little thoughts for you. Slightly random stuff in some ways, I guess. But maybe some thoughts for you to take with regard to your shoulders. And some, it's all just about having a bit more presence of mind in your body. And learning what feels good for it and what doesn't feel good for it. Check me out. Go and have a look at my website. I write a blog almost every week. I did write a blog this week. I might not write one next week, and I might talk to you about the blog next week instead. I'm going to talk about going forwards and backwards, and that's what I've written my blog about. So if you've got any questions on the blog, let me know, and then I'll, or any comments, not necessarily questions, but if you've got any comments on what I've written this week, give me a shout, because I'd love to have something to talk about next week, an extra dimension to talking about whether you prefer to go forwards or backwards on a train. I'm going to leave you with that thought. Thank you for joining me. I'm Felicity. I'm a satisfaction coach, yoga teacher, and reflexologist. And you've been very welcome here at Satisfaction Session. I hope to see you next week for some more satisfaction. Cheerio.